And then you have like Budvar or Budweiser, not the same as the American Budweiser, though. Interesting fact is that two Bohemian brothers, they went to like Chicago way back in the 1800s, and they started up a brewery about where they were from, Budvar. Budweiser. Hey, I'm Sean Basie with The Facetious Guide, or www.saintfacetious.com. And this week we're going to talk about the differences between Prague and Brussels. And why? Because 4 years ago, a long time ago, I lived in Prague for 4 years. And I lived here in Brussels for 3 years, and now I'm moving. And I'm leaving Brussels, as you can see with a box here in the background. I actually have a whole stack of boxes that you can't see. But yeah, we're leaving. We're moving back to Tbilisi in Georgia. Not Atlanta, Georgia, but Tbilisi, Georgia. The one over in the Caucasus, where Caucasian people are from. Actual Caucasians, not just white people. Even though actual Caucasians are kind of white, but you know, so it goes. I'm going to compare the two cities and which should you visit if you had to choose one. Or rather, which would I visit if I had to choose one, and which was easier to live in. Now, I should say that I have a little bit of bias here. When I first went to Prague, I was fresh in my marriage, so that was a whole new romantic time in my life. Whereas when we came to Brussels, we were fresh parents, and so our orientation was geared more toward the family-friendly lifestyle. It was also during COVID when we moved, so there was a no-friendly lifestyle. It was a no lifestyle. It was just an indoor. The parks were good too. Yeah, there's nothing going on. Couldn't go to the restaurants. Yeah, don't want to live through that again. Hopefully we won't have to. Anyways, also the reason I want to bring that up is because I have my old book, A Facetious Guide to Prague, and I recently fixed a lot of errors. I put in whole bunches of pictures and a cooler layout. And I also went through and updated everything for 2025. So now this book is completely relevant, good for 2025. If you know someone going to Prague, get them a copy of this book. Also what I did is I included, so we have maps and stuff, I included QR codes. So all you have to do is scan on your phone and you get the map. Like on your phone, you Google Maps. And all these spots that I have on here, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but all these spots I have on here will be marked on your map, and you can just walk through there. The route will be marked on your map if it's a tourist route. And yeah, it's really great. Like I have, lists of restaurants or monasteries. Here's a good example, monasteries, a QR code there that shows all the monasteries on Google Maps on your phone. It's really helpful. Now you can get the Kindle version as well, and that also has links, and before that was my favorite version because you could just click on the links. But now that we have a QR code thing, I think this is my favorite version, like the book version. I love books. I much prefer the paperback smell, and now we have QR codes. It's really cool. So yeah, get that if you can on Amazon. That's A Facetious Guide to Prague. If you're going to Prague, if you've been to Prague, great souvenir too, a lot of old pictures, cool pictures. You can remember your time excellently. There's a favorite picture of mine right there. Sex Machines Museum. That's a very silly museum, I'll tell you that. Okay, so we have one of my ratings is the historical and romantic feel. With Prague, it is a true historical town. It was a sometime capital of the Holy Roman Empire. Of course, the Holy Roman Empire was wherever the capital was. It was wherever the emperor was. It's kind of like sometimes Trump is in Mar-a-Lago, sometimes in D.C., and all the little kiss butt people all around him just sniffing up. He is where the capital. He is the capital, right? So I'm saying with the Holy Roman Emperor, he was the capital. And I have a little bit better feelings with the Holy Roman Emperors, especially like the Czech one, like Charles IV. He was a really great guy. Did a lot for his. He was the best. But really, I don't want to get into politics on this blog. As I mentioned before, I have. It is like, as an American, I remember one time on a train to St. Petersburg from Russia. And I sat down in the restaurant car, the bar car, let's be honest. Nobody was eating in that. It was like 2 a.m. and nobody was eating. And there's these two guys, Russian guys. One sits down with me and he's like, "Where are you from?" Yeah, he's American. And I go, "Oh, okay." And they're talking like, "Oh, Bush, I hate Bush." This was during George Bush. And he just goes on about it entirely, and I'm, whoa, I don't like Bush either. He's like, "Oh, okay, you're all right." Like, so the same reality is now for Russians with Putin, of course, because Russia invaded Ukraine. And yeah, so now all over Europe and I guess the US for a time, Russians were kind of derided because of their president. Of course, you shouldn't judge a person by their president, especially if they didn't vote for him. And you know what? Even like, it doesn't matter if you vote for Putin or not, Putin will be president. Like, the elections are a farce. They're just kind of make-believe. They're just, there's more of like an approval rating system where you have to approve. It's fantastic. Not fantastic. It's terrible. So yeah, you have that historical reality in the architecture is quite historical too. Like, they don't put random blobs of modern architecture throughout Prague. There's a couple parts, and then more on the outskirts they'll put in the more modern architecture like Pankratz or the different neighborhoods outside. And that's a great way to honor the history of a city. Where in Brussels is like a projectile vomit of architecture. It's just you have modern, you have Art Nouveau, you have Baroque, you have Brabantine Gothic. Like, it's just architecture just all over the place, different styles. Nothing makes sense together. It's like it's nuts. It's really, you get some really beautiful buildings, but singularly beautiful buildings. The context often does not fit. Which is okay. Like, that's the style of the city. Like, I think there are a lot of really beautiful buildings in here, but then you look around and you see Le Berlamont, and you're like, oh my God, that's an ugly building. And it's very like corner to corner. It just changed. The complete character of the city just changes from corner to corner. That's Brussels for you. And there's no like historical feeling. Like, sometimes on one or two streets you get that historical feeling, but then it's gone by the next street because there's some new modern craziness going on. And so for a historical feeling, for that real fairy tale feeling, you got to go to Prague. It's not Brussels. If you want the more cosmopolitan, if you want to feel what cosmopolitan Europe feels like, and you want Paris prices, then come to Brussels. Brussels might be the only city more expensive than Paris. Like, when we go to Paris, I feel like I'm saving money. Like, it's really like, and everybody complains about how expensive Paris is. Yeah, hey, come to Brussels, guys. Come to Brussels. But I'm not selling Brussels short. Like, that's true for restaurants. You can get kebabs on the street for cheaper in Brussels, I guess. You get waffles for cheaper. Beer. Which brings me to the next point. Water is cheaper in Paris because they actually give you water. In Brussels, they charge you for water. Why do they charge you? Or they yell at you, or they scowl at you. You're having water. Or you're having water. Yeah, so, grand views, beautiful vistas and grand views. I would have to say, like, in Brussels is not a very hilly city. You have one hill, and that's about it. And so all your vistas are based on this one hill, your nice views, your bella vista. They're all based on this one hill, and it's all built up, like built out, and there's no river, which I'll get to in a second. And yeah, so you get a couple principally nice views, namely from Art de Mont de Art. Art de Mont would be Arts of the Mountain. Mont d'Art. Excuse my French. And the House of Justice. Like those are the best views. Otherwise, in Prague, you have the huge Vltava River, and this creates a nice plain so that on the hills on both sides of the river, there are a lot of hills. You have majestic views, like beautiful, amazing views of the old town cities. So, if you want some grand, beautiful views, then I would say you have to go to Prague for that as well. Now let's go to the river and the river life. Like, I mentioned the Vltava River, and it's really built up. It's expansive. There's all these beautiful bridges over it, which brings me back to the medieval thing. There's the Charles Bridge, which is built like 500 years ago, and you got medieval statues going all up and down. And then you have Naplavka district, which is like along the embankment, all these bars and barge bars that operate, and it's really cool, especially on Sunday market days. And yeah, it's really amazing. They have a huge river. It's a beautiful river, and they really know how to take advantage of it. They have boats going up and down. They have ferries. They have all kinds of things going on with the river. Now in Brussels, the river was so bad. Like, it was just sewage and stench and smells, and it was just like dead bodies and all the bad stuff a river could have, and it was just piling up and overflowing and just terrible. So they buried it. You do what you do. You bury it. When you have a problem, you do what you do when you have a problem. You bury it. That's what they did with the Seine River. Not the same Seine as in Paris. I don't know why they have the same name, but this one is definitely buried. Now you can still see the Seine in the Sewage Museum. And that sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke. Like, you actually go underneath the city street level, and you go down into the sewers, and you can see the River Seine. And that's a really cool museum. I like that. You should go visit it if you're in Brussels. One of the best museums in Brussels is the Sewer Museum. Imagine that. Okay, now that says a lot about the city, doesn't it? I love the city. I'm just joking. Yeah, so they buried it, and then they have a canal to go around the town, and they keep trying to do stuff on the canal. Reviving it and bringing life to it, but it just doesn't work because the canal is bland, and the buildings around it are kind of and they just dump billions of dollars into trying to make like cafe districts here, and nobody wants to have their cafes there because it's a lifeless canal. Like, it's not a river, guys, and like, it's not like Amsterdam or even Bruges has really beautiful scenic canals, because like they're just incorporated into the city life and stuff, whereas this canal is not. It's like it goes through an industrial district, yeah, or like a warehouse district, which is right next to a much more beautiful district. Yeah, don't get me started. All right, so river, obviously Prague wins. Two of the best beers in Europe. You have Belgian beer, you have Czech beer. Okay, this hands down. You might say, but Sean, what about Germany? Germany has the best beers, blah, 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 blah. No, they don't. Helles beer, it doesn't suck. It's not as bad as American beer, but it's not amazing beer either. Like, sorry guys, sorry Deutschlanders. It's the best beer is over in Czech Republic. You have Pilsen. Like, it's such a good beer, even the name of beer, like Pilsner, one of the most known famous types of beers in the world, is there from Pilsen, Czech Republic. And if you don't know German, the ending er means you're from there. So Pilsner is from Pilsen. Pilsner Kel is from the town of Pilsen. And then you have like Budvar or Budweiser, not the same as the American Budweiser, though. Interesting fact is that two Bohemian brothers, they went to like Chicago way back in the 1800s, and they started up a brewery about where they were from, Budvar, Budweiss in German, and it was Budweiser. And they thought that was cool. They never thought that they would be competing with another beer called Budweiser from Budweiss, which is now České Budějovice and Budweiser. And now they have legal battles in every country over the naming rights. Of course, the Czech one is objectively a better beer. I won't even say subjectively. It is just a better beer. But whenever they lose the naming rights, because American Budweiser also has a pretty historical claim on it, wherever they lose the naming rights, they call it Budvar. So if you see Budvar in your beer store, that's actually Budweiser, but in some countries. Not all countries. Anyways, the beer tradition, of course, is more connected to the German beer tradition and all that of the beer gardens and stuff. So there's all sorts of nice beer gardens in Prague. Like, it's really central part of the Czech culture, Prager culture, is the beer garden experience. And over in Belgium here, beer is rooted to the city, like to the monasteries, really, the old monastic traditions. And the monasteries were all made on the Benedictine rule, which was that they had to like be self-sufficient. And of course, the easiest way to be self-sufficient is to make beer, because everybody is going to buy your product and you can make a lot of money with that. Especially back in the medieval ages when they only had crap beer, and then you roll in a big barrel of Orval, and you know quality is coming from that because friggin' like the Pope is stamped on that, or not an abbot has I don't know. So yeah, they're rolling a beer of that. Like, it's really good beer. You can get like Orval and Chimay and Meridsu. These are world-renowned beers, and they're all from like little monasteries throughout the Belgian countryside. And they're really cool to visit, even with kids, because they have like they have playgrounds, they have tours, and they have some of them have really unique beers that aren't for sale outside of the monastery. Like when we went down to Orval, I think it was it was Orval. I've been to a lot of these monasteries now. Orval has like all like different flavors, like raspberry, cherry. Cherry's pretty common here. Raspberry, like apple, like just these different fruit flavors that you can try. Apricot, that you can't get out of the monastery. So it's really interesting to visit those monasteries. So yeah, beer I would have to give to Belgium. Like Belgium has more unique beers, different flavors. They're full bodied, like they're like wine almost. They're really fine drinking drinks. So yeah, let's go with that. Food wise, so Czech they have the Austro-Hungarian fare. Now they do have like a Czech goulash, which is like the Hungarian goulash is like a soup, but the Czech goulash is like a plate with meat and the goulash sauce dumped on it. And then you have knedlíky, which is how they translate dumplings, but they're not really dumplings. I mean, maybe they just think a dumpling is like a piece of bread you dump into a sauce, and that's why they call it a dumpling, but it's really just unbaked bread or something, and it was weird. I actually really like them. I mean, they soak up the sauce really well, but it's hard to describe. They're like this weird kind of moist, half-cooked bread thing. Boiled bread, maybe. Maybe that's why they're calling them dumplings, because they're boiled bread, they just don't have filling and they're not noodly. Okay, whatever. And then they have this like svíčková, which is almost the same dish, but it's got a lot of like this cream stuff on there, like whipped cream or something. And then they have like trdelník, which is like the old chimney cakes, like really tasty cinnamon sugar, except they're not even Czech. Like you go everywhere in Prague, and like every corner they're selling these trdelník. But actually they're from Transylvania, like Romania originally. Some like general, his personal cook was from Transylvania, and they were living in Prague, and then everybody loved the dessert, so they just started making it. Now I'm pretty sure you can get more trdelník. You'll find more trdelník more commonly in Prague than any other city in Europe, even Transylvania. It's not a city, it's a region, but even throughout Timișoara, no, that's not in Transylvania. I don't know what cities in Transylvania. Even throughout Romania, throughout Hungary, like you'll find more in Czech Republic. It's more of a national dish, and it's not even from Czech Republic. But it's like how pizza is a national dish, or hamburgers are a national dish of America, and they're definitely not from America. Like pizza is obviously Italian, and hamburgers obviously from Hamburg. Because of the thing, for German for being from somewhere. So Belgian food is fries, waffles. Waffles are very tasty. Fries are tasty. They're like fried 3 times in animal fat or something. And then mussels. No, mussels are not from Brussels. Brussels is not even on the sea, but they rhyme nicely. I think they mean mussels, like maybe Belgians have mussels. I just wanted to show that off. Like they have the most Michelin star restaurants, but that's just because Michelin's from here. The rating system, not the tires. They have Flemish food, which looks a lot like Czech food. It's just like meat and potatoes. Yeah, so not exciting food-wise either. But like because Brussels is such a huge cosmopolitan city, they have really good food from everywhere else. Like really good Indian food. They've got really good Asian food, which is India's in Asia. They have really good African food. There's a huge population of people here from Congo because of the colonial history, and a whole neighborhood of Congolese, known for Congolese people, and restaurants, like lots of Congo restaurants. So like super spicy stuff, chicken and all that all the stuff they eat in the Congo. Yeah, so if you want to try African food but you want to go to Europe, Brussels, that's where you go. So food I would have to give to Brussels just because of the cosmopolitan nature. Like it's like New York almost with the level of quality of other people's cuisine. Language. Let's talk about language now. So I'm going to be harsh here. I've lived in many countries, and I'm kind of tired of learning these like useless languages. Now, when I say useless language, of course they're useful in the context of where they are. But like Georgian and Czech, which I've studied both, outside of Georgia and Czech Republic, you don't get to use the language very often. Like occasionally, like one time I was in Georgia and in the mountains and I met some Czech people and I was able to speak some Czech. I was like, ahoy, ahoy, jak se máš? Yeah, jak se máš? Yeah, and so that was cool. I got to like try to remember my Czech stuff when I was out hiking, and that was really nice. Sometimes I'm able to use, no, I haven't used Georgian at all here in Belgium unless I'm with my wife or her friends. Obviously with my wife because she's Georgian. I tried to do it with my kid. He's half Georgian, but he just doesn't. He likes the French more, and that's where I'm gonna get there. Second, here we have Dutch, and yeah, okay, Dutch is among the useless language category. It's such a fun language though. It's so funny to hear, like oompa doompa, oompa doompa doompa. Or like I've said before in a previous blog, it's like hearing a drunk Scotsman trying to speak German. It's very weird sounding. And then there's French, where they actually speak it in like half the world. So yeah, you can go other places and reasonably expect to find someone who speaks French around. Like half of Africa speaks French. The French Guiana over in South America, they speak French. Martinique. Actually, I would like to go just because it's very close to the U.S. but you're in like a totally different world, man. Because you're in Europe, right there. Technically, Europe. Yeah, so that's really cool. You can go to. Did you know that you could go to Europe and still be in the Americas? It's actually in the Gulf of. You can go to Europe in the Gulf of America. Whoa. Okay. So family-friendliness, I would have to say. Family-friendly atmosphere. So obviously I was not so cognizant of the family-friendliness when I was in Czech Republic. But I did take note that they have in restaurants there detský kutek, which is a children's corner, which is a really neat concept. Like, a little padded area with toys and games, and like sometimes I'll have a slide or something, like you might see in McDonald's. But like these are in regular restaurants, like proper restaurants. They'll have detský kuteks, and that's a really neat thing to have, which is nice for parents, especially. In Belgium, you just have to go to the Burger King or McDonald's. Like that's pretty much your only options for family-friendly fare. Now, a lot of Belgian restaurants, to be fair, will have kids' menus, so that's fair enough. And the kids' menus will still be pretty expensive, like more expensive than Paris. So yeah, there's that. And now, where Brussels excels in the family friendliness, and by family friendly I mean child friendly, is like everywhere you go, there's a park. There's always a park within a 15-minute walk. a park with a swing, with a playground. Okay? And you just got to search on Google, and you can walk within 15 minutes, guaranteed, a playground. And that's really cool when you got a kid, man, because like kids love playgrounds, even if it's like the stupidest playground with only like these boingy things. They'll do that for like 30 minutes. I don't know why, but it's just something. I don't like. It's weird. If it's dedicated to children, my kid goes nuts for it. But if it's not, he doesn't care about it. Like, it could even have the same stuff basically, but if it's not clearly a playground, then nope, nothing to do with it. It's very, very weird. Anyway, yeah. So that's really cool. And then the other thing that's cool is childcare is free here. Actually, they invented free childcare here. So from 6 months on, for Belgians, is completely free. For foreigners, is from 3 years on. Before 3 years, you have to pay for it. It's a modest sum of money. But that's really great if you have two working parents or two parents that are super busy. And it's also a great experience for child's development, for social development, for language development. Like my kid, he's only 5 years old. He's speaking 3 languages now. He's got English, French, and Georgian. And French all because of the childcare, you know. If he had not been going to daycare every day, he's sponsored by the state, like he would not know French. And he would only know English, maybe Georgian, but definitely English, like his dummy dad who can't speak anything. Of course, I was just bragging about speaking all these languages. I don't. I say ahoy, I say gamarjabat, and like that's it. That's the depth of my language. I can talk about the weather. I can say, ja mlivuju pivo. Man, it's been a long time since I spoke Czech. Milujem. Ja, milujem pivo. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. So family friendliness, I would have to rate it Brussels, but I'll have to be fair. That's only because I lived here with a kid and I didn't live in Czech. But they are mindful of children. And I do remember just seeing strollers everywhere in Prague, so there must be some advantages to having babies in Prague, because they're having a lot of babies in Prague, more so than here in Brussels. Yeah, so there's that too. All right, so that's my 2-bit for this week. Have a wonderful, excellent week. Until next time, and remember to get A Facetious Guide to Prague for any of your friends that are going to visit Prague, or for you if you're going to visit Prague. And also, you don't have to choose between the two cities. You can land in Brussels, take the sleeper train. Look that up on Google. The sleeper train from here to Prague, you'll be there overnight. So you can visit both cities even. Boom. And a really cool experience. So yeah. Yeah. Have it out. I'm Sean Basie. Have a good week.